I'm Christine Abela from Oxygen8 Consulting. I'm a business consultant with a strong tech background, helping small business owners move from chaos to calm and take their business to the next level. In this podcast, I share practical ideas and simple systems to make your business easier to run, more profitable, and more enjoyable to own. Some of the content is created with the help of AI tools, but the voice you're hearing right now is mine, and everything is grounded in real-world experience. If you'd like to learn more, get in touch, or download free notes and resources, head over to gobeyondbusy.com.
Okay, so if you're tuning in today, you probably know the drill. You're running a small business somewhere between $1 million and $10 million in turnover, and you're looking for ways to really push that growth, but at the same time, maybe simplify things a bit. Streamline operations, make everything run a little smoother, right?
Absolutely, and that's something that we see time and time again, business owners really struggling with.
And that brings us to today's topic, which is cash flow. The absolute lifeblood of your business. It's not just about keeping the lights on, it's about fueling that expansion you're aiming for and really achieving those goals.
I couldn't agree more, and I think it's surprising how many businesses that seem successful on the surface end up facing major problems purely because they haven't quite grasped the ins and outs of cash flow management.
It's not as simple as just having money in the bank, right?
Yeah.
It's about understanding the flow, the timing, the movement of that money.
You got it.
And this is where we get to a really crucial point. Something that often trips people up.
Right.
Profit does not equal cash flow. So imagine this. You've just landed a massive contract, and on paper, your profit margin looks incredible, but then your client hits you with a 90-day payment term.
Ooh.
But you've got your monthly expenses breathing down your neck, salaries, rent, utilities, all those things that need to be paid now.
Right.
Suddenly, even a profitable business can find itself in a very sticky situation.
Absolutely.
The books might look good, but the bank account's telling a whole different story.
That's right. And we actually see this play out in hypothetical examples. One that comes to mind is the story of a tech startup. Let's just call them TechStart.
Okay.
They managed to secure some pretty big deals, looked like they were heading towards some serious profitability, but the catch was they'd agreed to these really long payment terms with their clients, and that didn't line up at all with their immediate need to cover payroll operational expenses. And despite looking great on paper, they ended up facing a cash flow crisis that ultimately forced them to shut down. It's a pretty stark reminder of why being proactive with your cash flow management is absolutely essential for survival, let alone growth.
Right. So it's not just about making money. It's about managing that money.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about. We're going to equip you with the knowledge and the tools to not only avoid those critical situations, but to really grab the reins of your cash flow and steer it in the right direction.
I like that.
So we're going to break it down. We'll look at the essential metrics you need to track how to forecast your cash flow with way more accuracy, some expert techniques for handling both your receivables, the money coming in, and your payables, the money going out, and finally, some really smart strategies to make sure you always have enough liquid assets on hand to stay stable and jump on those opportunities when they come knocking.
Sounds good.
Our goal here is to give you practical stuff you can actually implement right away. Actionable strategies, not just theory. And, when I think about getting this kind of clear, no-nonsense advice on using smart, tech-savvy approaches to grow and simplify a business, one name that always pops into my head is Christine Abela from the Go Beyond Busy podcast.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of her.
She's got this amazing network and a real talent for breaking down complex business ideas, making them easy to understand and actually use. And I think this deep dive is going to give you that same kind of clear, practical guidance, but specifically targeted at mastering your cash flow.
Awesome. And as Christine often says, it all starts with getting a really good grasp of where your business stands financially right now.
Right.
That's where knowing your key metrics comes in.
Okay, so let's talk about these metrics. Why are they so important for us as small business owners? Why do they matter so much?
Because they're like a financial health check for your business. They give you these clear, quantifiable insights into how well your business is generating and using cash. And by keeping track of them regularly, you can spot potential issues early on, understand what's really driving your cash flow, and then make smarter, more informed decisions to improve your overall financial performance and stability.
So it's like having an early warning system in place.
Exactly.
So what are these must-know metrics, the ones we should be laser focused on?
Well, one of the most fundamental ones is your operating cash flow, often shortened to OCF. And this tells you how much cash your business is generating purely from its core day-to-day operations.
Okay.
It's a primary indicator of whether your business model itself is sustainable in the long run.
I see.
So if your OCF is positive and staying that way, it's a good sign your core activities are bringing in more cash than they're using up.
That makes sense. What's next?
Then we have free cash flow, or FCF, and this is the cash you have left over after you've accounted for all your capital expenditures, things like investing in new equipment technology upgrades or property improvements.
Right.
FCF is really crucial because it shows you how much flexibility you have financially.
Okay.
Can you reinvest in future growth, pay off debt, or even distribute profits to owners without needing to borrow money?
Got it. So OCF gives us the picture of operational health, and FCF shows us our reinvestment potential.
Yeah.
What about the cash conversion cycle? That sounds a bit more complex.
Yeah, it can seem a little intricate, but it gives you some incredibly valuable insights.
All right.
The CCC essentially measures how efficient your overall cash flow management is.
Okay.
It calculates the average time it takes for your business to convert its investments in resources like raw materials or inventory into actual cash from sales.
So it's about how quickly we can turn those investments into revenue.
Exactly. And generally, a shorter CCC is a good thing.
Makes sense.
It means your cash isn't stuck in the operational cycle for too long and you can use it for other things.
So shorter is better when it comes to CCC.
Right.
What about days sales outstanding, or DSO?
Days sales outstanding tells you the average number of days it takes to collect payments from your customers after you've made a sale.
Oh, I see.
A lower DSO is generally a positive sign.
Okay.
It means you're getting your money relatively quickly, which obviously improves your cash inflow, and it's a key measure of how effective your credit and collection processes are.
So if we have a high DSO, it's not just about late payments, it's actually impacting our growth potential.
Exactly. It's like you're giving our customers an interest-free loan.
Right, right. And the last one on our list is days payable outstanding, or DPO.
Yeah.
What does this tell us about our cash flow?
Days payable outstanding shows the average number of days it takes your business to pay its own suppliers.
Okay.
And this one's interesting because you need to strike a balance.
Right.
A higher DPO means you're holding onto your cash for longer, which can improve your short-term cash flow. But you don't want to push it too far and risk damaging your supplier relationships or getting hit with late fees.
Makes sense. So careful management is key.
Exactly. Strategic management of your DPO can be a really useful tool for optimizing cash flow.
So we've got our 5 key metrics: OCF, FCF, CCC, DSO, and DPO. And by tracking these, we can get a pretty comprehensive picture of our cash flow health and efficiency.
They're like the vital signs of your business's financial well-being.
Okay, great. Now we know what to keep an eye on. But how do we actually look ahead, anticipate our cash flow? That's where forecasting comes in, right?
Exactly. And it might sound a bit like trying to predict the unpredictable but accurate cash flow forecasting is more about preparation than just making guesses.
Okay, so it's about giving ourselves the information we need to deal with potential problems and also to grab those opportunities when they pop up.
Exactly. And feel confident doing it.
So where do we start? What makes up the foundation of a solid cash flow forecast?
Well, first off, you absolutely need good historical financial data, ideally going back at least 2 years, so you can spot trends in your sales, expenses, and cash flow patterns.
Okay, so past performance can give us some clues about the future.
Absolutely. Then you've got to consider any recurring patterns or seasonality in your business.
Right, like if you're retail, the holiday season's going to be huge.
Exactly. Understanding those cyclical variations is super important for accurate forecasting.
Okay.
And lastly, you need to think about both internal factors like, are you planning to expand, launch a new product, big marketing campaign coming up, and also those external factors, things like the overall economic climate or industry trends that could impact your cash flow.
So we've got our historical data, we've factored in those recurring patterns and seasonality, and we're keeping an eye on both internal and external influences. Now, what about some of the more sophisticated forecasting techniques? How can we take our predictions to the next level?
There are a bunch of great techniques out there that can give you a much more dynamic and insightful view of your future cash flow. One that's really useful is rolling forecasts.
Rolling forecasts, okay.
So, unlike a traditional annual budget, which can quickly become outdated, a rolling forecast is constantly updated, usually monthly or quarterly, and it maintains a consistent time horizon looking ahead like 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
So as one month ends, you add another to the end of your forecast period.
So it's like a moving window, always looking ahead.
Exactly. And this gives you a much more agile and accurate view of your projected cash flow. It's not just updating numbers, it's a dynamic planning tool that makes you constantly reevaluate your assumptions about the future.
Right, so you're not caught off guard if things change.
Exactly.
What about scenario planning? How does that work?
Scenario planning is all about creating multiple cash flow forecasts based on different potential outcomes for the future.
Okay.
So you might have a best case scenario, a worst case scenario, and a most likely scenario. This helps you understand the range of possibilities and come up with plans for each one.
Right, so you're prepared no matter what happens.
Exactly. For example, let's say you're launching a new product. You could forecast your cash flow based on different adoption rates. Optimistic, pessimistic, and realistic.
Oh, I see.
That way you're ready for various levels of success or even potential setbacks.
So it's about having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C.
Pretty much. And then there's driver-based forecasting.
And that focuses on what?
This one's all about identifying the key underlying factors or drivers that have the biggest impact on your cash flow. Things like sales volume, your pricing strategies, customer acquisition costs, or production expenses.
Okay.
You analyze the historical relationships between these drivers and your overall cash flow, and then use those correlations to build your forecast.
So if we know that a certain increase in marketing spend usually leads to a predictable increase in sales, we can use that information to project future cash flow.
Exactly.
Are there even more advanced techniques out there that are becoming accessible to businesses like ours?
Definitely things like Monte Carlo simulation are becoming much more widely available.
Okay.
This method uses probability distributions to model the uncertainty in your forecasts. It runs tons of different possible scenarios based on the ranges you set for your key variables.
So it's like running a simulation to see all the potential outcomes.
Exactly. And then at the really cutting edge, you have AI and machine learning. These technologies can analyze huge amounts of historical data to spot complex patterns and make predictions that humans might miss. And the interesting thing is that many financial software platforms are starting to integrate these advanced features,
Oh, wow.
making them more accessible to all sorts of businesses.
So even if we're not building our own AI models, we can still take advantage of these technologies through existing tools.
Exactly.
Okay, so with all these techniques and technologies available, what are some practical tools that can help us implement them effectively?
Well, there's a whole range of tools out there catering to different needs and levels of complexity. For many small businesses, spreadsheet software like Excel or Google Sheets can be a good starting point, especially if you're already familiar with them.
Right.
Then there's accounting software packages like QuickBooks or Xero, which often have built-in forecasting features that connect directly to your financial data.
That makes sense.
And then there are dedicated cash flow forecasting software solutions like Float or Dry which are specifically designed for this purpose. And they often have more advanced features like scenario planning and integration with different data sources.
So it's about choosing the tool that fits our specific needs and resources.
Exactly. And for larger businesses with more complex operations, ERP systems like SAP or Oracle offer comprehensive financial management capabilities, including forecasting.
Right.
And then, as we talked about before, some AI-powered financial planning and analysis platforms are out there offering really advanced forecasting features that use AI and machine learning.
It seems like there's a tool for every business out there.
Definitely the key is to carefully assess your business's size, how complex your operations are, your budget, and your specific forecasting needs to find the right tool for you.
You mentioned earlier a SaaS company called TechGrow that successfully used some of these advanced forecasting techniques during a period of rapid growth.
They did. They were going through a phase of massive expansion, and they implemented driver-based rolling forecasts,
Oh,
which allowed them to constantly adjust their projections as they got new information.
sure.
They also used scenario planning extensively to anticipate different market reactions to their product launches, and even used Monte Carlo simulation to figure out the range of possible financial outcomes.
And that gave them...
It gave them a really high level of forecast accuracy, which meant they could make confident decisions about hiring, marketing investments, product development, all that stuff.
So they were able to stay ahead of the curve even in a very dynamic environment.
Exactly.
So for a small business owner who's just starting to dip their toes into these more advanced forecasting methods, what are some practical tips to keep in mind?
Well, first of all, don't try to do everything at once. Start small.
Okay.
Pick one or two methods that seem most relevant to your business and manageable for your team, and then gradually expand your approach as you gain experience and confidence.
So it's a step-by-step process.
Exactly. And it's crucial to keep refining your forecasts by comparing them to your actual results and using that information to improve your models.
Right. So it's an iterative process, always getting better.
Absolutely. And don't forget to involve different departments, get input from sales marketing operations. They often have firsthand insights that can impact your cash flow.
That makes sense.
And stay informed about industry trends, economic indicators, anything that could affect your business environment.
Right.
Your forecast should be a living document, so be ready to adjust as things change.
Okay, so it's not set in stone. It's a dynamic tool.
Exactly. And one last thing, don't underestimate the value of training your team so they can use the chosen tools effectively and contribute to the forecasting process.
That's really important. It's about empowering everyone to be involved.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another critical aspect of cash flow management, the day-to-day handling of what's coming in our receivables and what's going out our payables.
Absolutely. This is where small business owners can really take control and make a direct impact on their short-term cash flow by putting the right practices in place.
So let's start with receivables, the money our customers owe us. What are some expert techniques we can use to really optimize this area?
The main goal with receivables management is to speed up how quickly you collect payments.
Okay.
One key area is to streamline your invoicing process, automate as much as possible, especially recurring invoices.
Right.
If you're service-based, send those invoices out as soon as the service is done. Make sure your invoices are clear, easy to understand, and have all the necessary details, and offer multiple payment options. Credit cards, direct bank transfers, popular online platforms, anything that makes it super convenient for your customers to pay you.
So it's about removing any friction from the payment process.
Exactly. The easier it is for them to pay, the faster you get your money.
Makes sense. What else can we do to improve our cash inflow on the receivable side?
Well, take a look at your payment terms.
Okay.
If you're offering 30-day terms, could you maybe shorten them to 15 or 20 days without upsetting your customers?
Right.
Consider offering early payment discounts to encourage faster payments, like a small percentage off if they pay within 10 days. And on the flip side, make sure you have clear policies about late payment penalties to discourage delays.
So it's a combination of carrots and sticks.
You could say that make it easy and rewarding to pay on time and less appealing to pay late.
Now, what about the risk of customers not paying at all? How do we manage that proactively?
That's where good credit management comes in. Before you extend credit to a new customer, always do a thorough credit check.
Okay.
See how creditworthy they are, set appropriate credit limits based on their history and financial situation, and then review and adjust those limits regularly based on their payment behavior with you.
So it's about understanding who you're doing business with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even with these precautions, sometimes payments still become overdue.
So what's the best way to handle collections when that happens?
You need a well-defined and efficient collection process. Set up automated payment reminders that go out before, on, and after the due date.
Right.
And have a clear procedure for following up on overdue invoices, maybe escalating from email reminders to phone calls and then formal letters.
Right.
It's often helpful to provide your accounts receivable team with some training in effective and professional collection techniques.
So they feel confident handling those conversations.
Exactly. And don't forget about technology. Accounts receivable software can automate a lot of these tasks, track payment statuses, and help you spot trends that might indicate potential issues.
So it's about using technology to streamline and improve our collections process.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot on the receivable side. Now let's switch gears and talk about payables, the money we owe to our suppliers and vendors. How can we be more strategic about managing this aspect of our cash flow?
The key to strategic payables management is to optimize your outgoing cash flow without jeopardizing those important relationships with your suppliers.
Right. We don't want to burn any bridges.
Exactly. One good tactic is to negotiate favorable payment terms with your suppliers.
Okay.
See if you can extend your standard payment terms to hold onto your cash a little longer, or ask about early payment discounts they might offer if you can pay sooner.
So it's about having those open conversations with our suppliers.
Exactly. Building strong relationships with your key suppliers can often lead to more flexibility and payment arrangements that benefit both sides.
And what about the actual timing of our payments? Does that matter?
It absolutely does. The timing of your payments can have a big impact on your cash flow.
Okay.
The general strategy is to pay as close to the due date as possible without incurring late fees or hurting your credit unless you're taking advantage of an early payment discount.
Right.
Try to align your payment cycles with your expected cash inflows so you have the funds available when those payments are due, and using electronic payment methods can give you more control over the exact timing of your outflows.
So it's about staying organized and knowing when your money is coming in and going out.
Precisely. You mentioned purchase order systems earlier. They play a big role in good payables management, too.
Right. How so?
A well-implemented PO system gives you much better control over your spending and makes your cash flow forecasting much more accurate.
Okay.
Have a clear policy that requires POs for any significant expenses, set up approval levels within your organization, and consider using PO software to automate the whole thing, make it more efficient, and give you better visibility into what you'll be paying for.
So it adds a layer of accountability and transparency.
Exactly. And don't forget about inventory management. That can tie up a lot of your working capital if you're not careful.
Right. Too much inventory sitting around can really drain our cash flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So efficient inventory management is crucial for good cash flow management.
Okay.
Look into things like just-in-time inventory practices where you order stock closer to when you actually need it so you're not holding on to so much capital and warehousing.
Okay.
Use demand forecasting tools to predict customer demand more accurately so you don't end up overstocked. And if it makes sense for your business, consider vendor-managed inventory arrangements or consignment agreements where the supplier takes on some of the inventory holding costs and risks.
And just like with receivables, technology can play a big part in making our payables processes smoother and more efficient, right?
Absolutely. Accounts payable automation software can take care of a lot of the manual work, from receiving invoices to processing payments, cutting down on errors, and boosting efficiency. Using electronic payments is faster, more secure than paper checks, and gives you better tracking and control. And then there are spend analysis tools that can reveal a lot about your spending patterns.
So we can identify areas where we might be able to save money.
Exactly, or find opportunities to negotiate better terms with suppliers or take advantage of volume discounts.
So we've talked about optimizing receivables and payables separately, but how do we bring these two sides together to create the best possible overall cash flow for our business?
The real magic happens when you start strategically balancing your receivables and payables.
Okay.
Try to align your payment cycles as closely as possible. For instance, if your customers usually take 30 days to pay you, aim to negotiate payment terms of 45 days or more with your suppliers.
Oh, I see. So we're matching our outgoing payments with our incoming payments.
Exactly. And use your cash flow forecast to guide your decisions about whether to focus on getting customer payments in faster or maybe extending supplier payments a bit, within reason, of course. And always have backup plans in case you run into short-term cash flow gaps, things like a line of credit or a readily available cash reserve.
So we're prepared for the unexpected.
Exactly. And don't forget to regularly check your key performance indicators like DSO and DPO and be ready to adjust your strategies based on what they're telling you.
So it's about staying flexible and adapting to the situation.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, keep those lines of communication open with both your customers and your suppliers.
Right.
If you foresee any cash flow challenges, it's always better to be upfront and communicate with your suppliers ahead of time.
It builds trust and helps everyone work together. So it's not just about implementing isolated tactics for receivables and payables. It's about managing the overall rhythm of cash flow in your business.
Absolutely. Seeing the big picture.
Now let's move on to something that underpins all of this. Making sure we have enough liquid assets on hand to meet our short-term obligations and keep things running smoothly. In other words, maintaining strong liquidity.
Liquidity is absolutely essential. It's the foundation of a stable and resilient business.
So it's about our ability to meet those immediate financial obligations and also to convert assets into cash quickly without losing money in the process.
Exactly, being able to access cash when you need it.
So why is liquidity so crucial for us as small business owners dealing with all the daily challenges and opportunities that come our way?
Well, for several key reasons. First, it ensures you can consistently pay your bills on time. Things like salaries, supplier invoices, operating expenses, all that keeps the business running smoothly and keeps everyone happy.
Right.
Second, it acts as a buffer to help your business handle those unexpected events like a sudden drop in sales, unforeseen disruptions, or emergency expenses.
So it's like a safety net.
Exactly. And third, having cash readily available allows you to grab those growth opportunities when they appear, things like investing in new equipment, expanding your marketing efforts, or even acquiring a competitor.
Right. So it's about being able to act decisively when the time is right.
Absolutely. And on top of all that, strong liquidity often gets you better terms from suppliers and lenders because it shows you're financially stable and less risky to do business with.
So it's good for our reputation as well.
Exactly. And ultimately, knowing you have enough liquid assets just gives you that peace of mind and reduces stress.
Okay, so how do we measure our liquidity? What are the key metrics we should be keeping track of?
There are a few important financial ratios that can give you insights into your liquidity position.
Okay.
The current ratio is a good one. It's calculated by dividing your total current assets by your total current liabilities.
And what does that tell us?
It gives you a general idea of whether you can cover your short-term debts with your short-term assets.
Okay.
A ratio of 2 to 1 or higher is usually considered healthy, but it can vary depending on your industry.
Right.
Then there's the quick ratio, also called the acid test ratio.
And
It's a more conservative measure because it doesn't include inventory, which might not be easy to convert to cash quickly. It's calculated as cash plus marketable securities plus accounts receivable divided by current liabilities.
so it's looking at our most liquid assets.
Exactly. And a ratio of 1 to 1 or higher is generally considered strong.
Okay.
Then there's the cash ratio, which is the strictest measure. It only looks at your most liquid assets, cash and cash equivalents divided by your current liabilities.
Okay.
And lastly, the operating cash flow ratio, which is your operating cash flow divided by your current liabilities. This shows how well your current debts are covered by the cash generated from your core operations.
So if it's above 1, that means we're in good shape.
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay. So these ratios give us a snapshot of our immediate ability to meet our short-term financial obligations. What are some more advanced techniques for managing our working capital to make sure we maintain good liquidity?
Well, we've already discussed some important ones like optimizing your cash conversion cycle by speeding up receivables collection and managing your inventory and payables strategically.
Right.
But there are other advanced techniques too, like dynamic discounting, where you offer your suppliers varying discounts for paying earlier.
So it's a win-win. They get paid sooner, and we optimize our cash flow.
Exactly. Then there's supply chain financing, where you work with financial institutions to provide your suppliers with early payment options. This can strengthen your relationships with them and maybe even help you negotiate better terms.
Interesting.
Receivables factoring is another option where you sell your outstanding invoices to a third party at a discount to get cash more quickly.
Okay.
Inventory financing allows you to use your inventory as collateral for short-term loans and for businesses with multiple entities. Cash pooling can be a good way to optimize liquidity across the whole organization by centralizing cash balances.
So there are quite a few different strategies we can use depending on our specific needs and circumstances.
Exactly.
Now, are there specific financial instruments we can use to help manage our liquidity?
Yes. Especially for larger businesses, issuing commercial paper can be a way to get short-term financing. Revolving credit facilities give you flexible borrowing options that you can tap into as needed.
Right.
Trade credit insurance can protect you if customers don't pay their invoices. And if you deal with multiple currencies, Forex hedging strategies can protect you from unfavorable exchange rate fluctuations.
Oh.
And then there's reverse factoring, where a financial institution pays your suppliers early on your behalf based on your creditworthiness. This can sometimes help you get better payment terms.
So it's about exploring all the available tools and finding the ones that work best for us.
Exactly.
And once again, it seems like technology is playing an increasingly important role in how businesses effectively manage their liquidity.
Absolutely. We're seeing really sophisticated treasury management systems that can automate a lot of liquidity management tasks and give you real-time visibility into your cash positions across different accounts and currencies.
So it's about having that up-to-the-minute information.
Exactly. And AI and machine learning are being used to make cash flow forecasts more accurate and to identify potential liquidity risks before they become problems.
Right.
Real-time payment systems are speeding up the movement of cash and blockchain technology, although it's still early days, holds a lot of promise for transforming things like supply chain financing and cross-border payments, which can definitely impact liquidity management.
So keeping up with these technological advancements is going to be crucial for staying ahead in the cash flow game.
Absolutely.
It's clear that maintaining strong liquidity isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing effort that requires careful monitoring, strategic management of our working capital, and using the right financial tools and technologies.
It's about building a solid financial foundation so your business can not only survive, but actually thrive in both good times and bad.
We've covered a lot of ground today exploring all sorts of aspects of cash flow mastery. So let's wrap things up by talking about how we can use these insights to empower our business's future. What are the key principles we should always remember as business owners?
The most important takeaways are, first, cash is king. Profit doesn't always equal healthy cash flow.
Right.
Second, make it a priority to actively manage your cash position.
Okay.
Third, make cash flow forecasting a regular habit using the techniques that work best for your business.
Got it.
Fourth, focus on optimizing both your receivables and your payables.
Okay.
Fifth, make sure you have enough liquidity to meet your obligations and grab those opportunities when they come up.
Right.
Sixth, use technology to streamline your cash flow management processes.
Okay.
And lastly, always monitor your key cash flow metrics to track your progress and see where you can improve.
So understanding these principles is one thing, but how do we make sure we're actually applying them consistently in our day-to-day operations?
Well, it starts with creating a cash flow culture throughout your entire organization. Make sure everyone understands how important it is and how their work impacts it.
So it's a team effort.
Absolutely. Set up regular review processes, maybe weekly, monthly, or quarterly, to track your cash flow performance against your forecasts and make adjustments to your strategies as needed.
So regular check-ins are key.
Absolutely. And use technology to automate those routine tasks so your team can focus on more strategic stuff.
Makes sense.
And when you're making important business decisions about pricing investments, anything big factor in those cash flow considerations.
The cash flow is always part of the equation.
Exactly. And lastly, never stop learning. Keep up with the latest best practices and tools for cash flow management.
So what are the real tangible benefits we can expect to see in the long run if we consistently apply these sound cash flow management practices?
The benefits are huge. They can really make or break your business.
Okay.
First, you'll experience more sustainable and predictable growth because you'll have the cash flow to fuel it.
Right.
Second, your overall profitability can improve because you'll be managing expenses better, you might get better terms from suppliers, and you'll rely less on expensive short-term financing.
So it's about building a stronger, more resilient business.
Exactly. And third, you'll be better equipped to handle unexpected economic downturns or shifts in your industry.
So we're more prepared for whatever comes our way.
Absolutely. And as a result, the overall value of your business will likely increase because of its stronger financial position.
Okay.
You'll also have more flexibility strategically to pursue new opportunities and adapt to changing market conditions.
So we can be more agile and responsive.
Exactly. And of course, all of this leads to less financial stress and better relationships with everyone you work with, lenders, suppliers, and even your own employees.
So it's not just about the numbers, it's about the overall health and well-being of the business.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Now, you mentioned some emerging financial tools and techniques that are on the horizon. Can you remind us about those and maybe expand on how they could benefit businesses like ours?
Sure. We're seeing incredible advancements in AI and machine learning, which are leading to much more sophisticated and accurate cash flow forecasting and risk assessment. Blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies have the potential to streamline transactions and cut costs, especially for international payments.
Right.
Open banking APIs are making it easier to share financial.
Thanks for listening to Go Beyond Busy. If something in today's episode struck a chord, or you'd like support to get your business to the next level, head over to gobeyondbusy.com. You'll find more resources there and an easy way to get in touch. I'm your host, Christine Abela from Oxygen8 Consulting. helping you to fall in love with your business all over again. Thanks for joining me.